This is the most intense personal 3 weeks that I've had not being in the military. And it rivals some of the military stuff that I've gone through as well, just on a different level. It's not physical, just emotional. I knew there was some trauma resiliency, but I wasn't 100% sure what that was going to entail. It drew things out of me that I've not spoken about in a really long time, and that was what really started the healing. Up until here, I can tell a story, but here it wasn't a story anymore. The staff wouldn't take a story. They wanted to hear the real you, and they would draw that out of you, and that's what got down to the core of who I was and exposed the suffering that I've been putting not only myself through, but secondary to my family. And it felt raw. It felt, having suppressed those emotions for so long, it was tapping into parts of me that I had forgotten about. And so it was like a raw nerve. And slowly, as I addressed them, it began to heal. Just telling a story wouldn't have done it. So the safe environment here at TAV is what provided the healing for me. I've been able to reflect and practice, put into practice things that we have covered in class, sometimes the same day. Not perfectly. There's training wheels. I have colleagues that I've gone through this training with that I can bounce ideas off of, and I can call my wife and hey, this is kind of what's going through my head, and get her opinion of it as well. So I've had the opportunity to put practice to lessons that we've learned already, and that is encouraging for me, very much so. There's a good chance that I probably would have become a statistic. I would have been a divorced husband, suffering on the inside, looking for healing and not knowing where to find it. I would say the closest thing would be starting my marriage counseling. It was a facade. It was not real. So I went into it full bore, but there was walls. There wasn't the heart and soul behind it. So it didn't last. It didn't work, and we ended up having to find a different therapist to go through, and it took at least a year before it was able to break down and make some progress. Service dogs definitely have fun. They're not just working all the time. Interacting with the dogs on a daily basis, it's hard not to laugh at some of the stuff that they'll do, and seeing the way that Bahesha and the staff has paired these animals with us is unbelievable, because they're not little clones of us, but their personalities are so similar to ours. So watching the dogs play out in the fields, you can see a little bit of me running around out there, or some of the other people in the class, and it's fun to watch. So yeah, there's definitely some funny times. Yeah, the pond was a special moment for sure. The invitation, if you will, to jump in the pond with the dogs, for me, was a growing experience. I didn't want to get in the pond at all. And Bahesha just calmly walked up, like Bahesha does, and says, get in the pond. Show some growth. Take a risk. Are you all in? Absolutely, I'm all in. And at that point, that was her little nudge, and she left it up to me. And jumping in the pond was awesome. Very metaphoric of going all in with something and not being afraid. I sought out where Niana was, and I looked for her, and she found me, and we splashed around. I had the scratches on my chest to show for it, but it was awesome. It was a good time. And watching the dogs go ripping around and how much they enjoyed swimming in the pond, it was awesome. It was a good time. The trainer said, if you go under, she'll come to you. So I went under, and there she was, latched right on me. I think it was just the immersion so we start on a Monday, and I think Wednesday they send the dogs home with us. And at first, the first few days, the dogs are looking to the trainers like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Who is this person that keeps showing up? And then they're sent home with us. And after a couple days, they start going, okay, you're the one that I'm here for and I'm supposed to be with. And then sometime along in that second week, it just starts to click, and you can see between veterans and their dogs at different times, the dog, if a veteran stands up, the dog will start to look for the veteran, and everyone is a little bit different. But over the last couple of days, at this point, if any of the veterans get up without their dogs, their dog is looking straight for where they're going and solely focused on their veteran, and nothing else matters to them. And it's incredible. It really is. It really makes you feel special, and it makes you want to be there for the dog, because that dog can't do anything without you. It needs you to be there for it, and it makes you feel very, very special to be there for them. I wasn't really sure how the program was going the first few days, because we started talking about more dog psychology, and I wasn't sure how that was going to translate into us as a human. So that was a little bit surprising for me, but the building blocks that they put us through set a foundation for us to learn, later in the first week, all into the second week, and culminating with the third week of the program. Had they just jumped straight into, what's your trauma? It wouldn't have worked. I think about, when Behesha talks about the hindbrain in the dog, well, that's what I operated in. And the somewhat simple techniques of mindfulness, centering yourself, getting into the moment, and creating those the neurons to start a new pathway in your brain to create the new you, not even the new you, the real you, to recreate the real you. I think about both of them. So the trauma resiliency portion for me is remembering that I cannot operate in the hindbrain, like she talks about for dogs. I can't operate in the hindbrain. I can't go back to what's easy or what was easy. I have to create those new pathways in my brain. So the trauma resiliency portion of it was huge for me, and understanding how all that worked to create my brain from the perspective of a dog was pretty impactful for me. I have been married for 16 years now, and because of my deployments and because of the schedule that I kept in the military, that's 16 years calendar, but in reality probably about 2 years of actual emotional marriage, because I was always checked out, as Behesha says. My family suffered for that. My wife suffered for that. My children suffered because in between deployments I would come home and there would be the honeymoon period of Dad's back, but then he would get ready to go again, and they would be pushed aside because Army mission first and family will come later on. So they suffered for that. So they were always trying to be present in my life despite anything that I would throw at them. So I wasn't loving, I wasn't emotional, I was physically there, but mentally and emotionally checked out on them. And it took a wake-up call from my wife to really push my marriage to the strong relationship that I feel that we have now. She came out and said, hey, the kids and I are leaving. You can choose to come with us or not. And that was the wake-up call that I can't put them through that anymore. I have to make steps to improve. And starting marriage counseling was the first step, which I went to reluctantly because I didn't feel like I needed that. I went to save my marriage. And then as I recognized more and more that I was the problem in the household, my wife was the stable anchor, I needed to make the changes to create a family that they deserved. to be a husband and a father that they deserved. My wife and I had been going to marriage counseling for quite some time, and during that process, the counselor identified that I was suffering with PTSD, and that was really a stumbling block for our marriage counseling itself, and recommended that I seek out a counselor and a therapist for myself. Through discussion with her and my wife, we elected to suspend marriage counseling because we have established a rapport with her and continue therapy on my own with her. During that process, it was probably a year and a half of discussions with her, weekly meetings, going over, not only just my traumas, but some of my family environments that I was creating. She came to me and said, "Hey, I really think that you should look into the possibility of getting a service dog." And through one of her colleagues, she got the disabled veteran website and said that it came with a lot of high recommendations and that I should look into it. She wasn't going to push me, but she just made the recommendations. So I went back home and looked at the website and was in denial that I actually needed to do that. I watched the videos of some of the prior veterans, and I looked at the mission statement that they had, and I just didn't think it was for me because I didn't see myself as needing that. My therapist and my wife didn't push it on me. I printed out the application and it sat on my desk for about 6 months. And during the course of continuing my therapy, I realized that I wasn't really getting anywhere. I was having good sessions, but there wasn't much healing. I was exposing some of the traumas, but there wasn't a healing portion to it. So I re-engaged with the application, and I told my therapist that I was ready to do it, and she was happy to hear that. So I filled out the application. I had my wife do her portion. My therapist gladly did hers, and I submitted the packet. And I remember the day that Bahesha called me to tell me that I was accepted into the program, and I was speechless. I was absolutely speechless, and I was ready. That's when I knew I was ready to go. She absolutely challenged me. She asked if I was ready, and I said yes, I was ready. And she's, "Well, what does that mean?" Like, I'm ready to make changes. I'm ready to make the changes in my life, not just for me, but my family has had enough. They don't deserve that anymore. So it was as much for myself to heal so that I could become a better father and a better husband. So the challenge was there and accepted. For me, I could see the challenge, and I know I want to accomplish the challenge, and I'm real good moving forward towards that. And once I get to actually implementing it, there's a few hesitant steps, but once I get in the groove, just like Niana, I can get up and over it. So it's the crux for me, and the challenges and the obstacles. The parallel for that was it's starting. I can have all the words and all the motivation behind it at the beginning. It's once I start it, I've got to work through it. Those first few steps, those first baby steps, if you will. Once I get past that, I've got my confidence and I'm gone. And that's how I saw myself through Niana's eyes, because the first couple times that she did it, she really needed some encouragement, those first few steps, and then she was okay. Each time it got easier. Towards the end, she didn't need it anymore. She was ready to go because it was comfortable for her. She knew that I was going to be there for her. So those challenges in life for me, that my wife will be there. I know that. She's been so supportive of me up until this point. There's no way that she is going to back away now. It's a little bit embarrassing that I went so long being checked out on my family, thinking that I was doing the right things, but now knowing that I was not providing them anything that they actually needed. Knowing that I've made, just over the course of these 3 weeks, some life-changing decisions. Although I will have stumbling blocks when I go home, I'm not scared of them anymore. I'm not scared of doing anything that my family is going to turn around and leave me. I know that they'll be there to support me and work through those blocks, and I can become the father that they need and the husband that my wife needs and is longed for. And I can't wait to get back to see her to do that. I want to be better. I want to be better first for me, but second, it's what my family deserves. You know, when I took my marriage vows, for better, for worse, she's been through the worse, and she deserves the better. My kids deserve the better. They deserve the role model that as a husband and a father I'm supposed to be. So when my daughter grows up, she doesn't fall prey to somebody that her dad was as a young kid for her. She can see what a strong man is, and she can gravitate towards that. For my son, he can look and see the example of what a true man is and what a husband should be and what a father should be. And that is also the driving factor for me. That's awesome. To make sure that they get those examples.
You said something interesting. You first you were saying that the man that they need, and then you changed to the man that they deserve. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Think about that. What do you think? What do you think differs need from deserve?
I don't know.
To me, when you said need is like you need money to have a house. You need money for food. You need a dad to take you to and from school. You need a husband to pick up the laundry or to do the laundry or to whatever. But deserve implies that they have value.
Yeah.
That they deserve you because you're someone of worth, and they have value, so that you deserve each other, and they deserve to be loved and to be nurtured and cared for, no longer just being the thing they needed to be provided for, but now you get to come back and be the man they deserve.
Yeah.
And you made that change, and that struck me.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What do you think about that? When I say deserve,
it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's much more powerful than a need.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is. It's comforting for me knowing the support network that I have at home. It's going to mimic what I have here. There's nothing that I can tell my wife that's going to cause her to clam up and create an unsafe environment for me. Working through my issues like I have here at home will be possible, and that's encouraging. That makes it exciting to go home to. I know I will be successful. Continuing therapy with my psychologist on a weekly basis, bringing her up to speed, if you will, the progress that I've made here, even in just 3 weeks, 7 days a week, that's half a year's worth of counseling appointments and therapy appointments that I would go to. So the progress I made was vast. Continuing that with her is going to be paramount. Stepping back into the role of a husband and a father when I get there, and explaining as best I can to my family what I've gone through here and the processes that I now have at my disposal. If things start to go sideways, I can turn those around and choose a different path and create a better environment for everybody. So I know I'll be successful. It's going to be hard. I've been here for 3 weeks doing this program. My family has been back at home doing family stuff. They haven't gone through the training. They haven't sat through the classes. They haven't seen the changes that I've made and am continuing to make. So there's going to be some stumbling blocks. Walking right back in after 3 weeks is going to be very much similar to walking right back in from a deployment. The initial honeymoon period is going to be there. Everybody's going to be happy to see each other and want to spend time. But the real difference is going to be a few days later when they see these changes in me and they see me actively working to become that better person. Even though there's going to be stumbling blocks, they're going to see that I'm making an active effort to become better. And they're going to be there for me. And they're going to help me work through it. And if I stumble too hard, my companions that I've met here are a phone call away. Bahesha's a phone call away to put me right back on the track that I need to be on, encourage me, and get me moving again. So I'm not afraid of the difficult times that are going to be there, because they're going to be short-lived. The military does a very good job of getting us prepared for our mission ahead, the tactical mission, the operational mission, the strategic mission. But what the military is still struggling with is the emotional impact that that has on the individual soldier. So for me, the model that I want to be for the next generation that's coming up behind us, I want them to see that there's another side of the battle, whatever that may be, whether it be a true battle or just maybe your career. There's an emotional side to it, and you don't have to be afraid to tap into it. It doesn't make you any weaker of a person. It makes you a stronger person. And by doing so, you can provide that much more, not only to yourself, but to your fellow soldiers or sailors. You can provide that much more to your unit, and more importantly, to those that are around you that are your loved ones. And you'll have a much happier career. You'll have a much more blessed career. You'll have a career of fulfillment all the way around. She was put into my life at the exact moment I needed her. She will not pull any punches. She will tell you how it is, and she will push you only as far as you're willing to be pushed, and she will help you as much as you're willing to give. She's not going to go more, and she tells you that day one. She's there for you only as much as you're willing to be in the program. So if you're just going to sit there and grit your teeth for 3 weeks, you're not going to get much out of her or from her. She'll try, but if you're not going to give the effort, she won't give it back. So if you jump in, she's going to be right there with you, providing you the environment that you need to grow and to heal. And she is such an incredible woman. Such strength and such compassion for us as veterans to heal. That's what she wants. Every one of us is a little bit different. Every one of us has our difference in traumas, and she's there for all of us. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is or what time it is, she's there. And she's checking up on you. When you walk into class, she's there ready to give you a big hug. When you leave for the day, she's giving you a big hug. Throughout the night, she's texting you, checking in to see how you're doing, because she knows if you've had a rough day. And she's there for you to release and find your healing place. And she's there to help guide you. Absolutely incredible. Like some of the things that she says, you're just not sure how she gets it, because she nails it. I know some of the other veterans in the class are like, what? I just wrote about that last night in my journal, and here you are talking about it right now, and you haven't even seen my journal yet. So how did you do that? So how she does it, I don't know. I don't know what her secret sauce is, but she gets it. And she can relate to the most hardcore veteran that you can find, all the way down to the most kind-hearted veteran that there is. All of us come with different pasts and different stories, and she's right there with you for every step of the way. And she is a godsend, for sure. Thank you. Without your support, monetarily, without your generous donations from the community, it wouldn't have been possible. I wouldn't have been able to spend 3 weeks on my own dime to do this. Even if the dog was provided by itself, I wouldn't have been able to spend 3 weeks out here on my own. I wouldn't have been able to spend the money that it would have taken to get the vet bills paid, to get the food paid for the dog, to go through the training. So thank you. Look deep inside yourself and believe what you're telling yourself. If you need help, believe that. You don't have to be tough anymore. You've done your time, and you need to heal. You don't have to stick it out. You can find help. Disabled Veteran will help you. Don't wait. Just go for it.